here's the real question. How do dentists like you, who aren't willing to let insurance dictate how you will run your practice, who want to create incredibly profitable practices without sacrificing your time or sanity, how do you create the strategies to ensure your practice not only survives, but thrives in the 21st century? That's the blaring question, and Dr. Steve Schlintz is here to provide the answers. Welcome to Dental Practice Freedom Radio.
What is up, everybody? This is Dr. Steve Schlintz. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And as you know, some of these podcast episodes are a little bit off the cuff. So whatever comes to mind, and I'm thinking, okay, how does this actually relate to my practice? And for the last couple of days, I was thinking about what is the next thing I want to talk about? What is the next inspiration that's going to come to me so that I can give you guys a great short podcast episode? And I was recording some videos for my program, Dental Sales Secrets, and getting to my clients. And I was looking at my computer screen, my desktop, and I have a recording software called ScreenFlow. And basically, there is there's a function on it where you can basically get rid of every desktop icon. And by getting rid of every desktop icon, it cleans everything up so that when you're recording and you're showing demonstrations, you don't have to worry about getting rid of all your folders and things like that. So it's a really cool feature. But I was looking at my desktop that's completely clear and all the icons are gone. But I know in the background, I had a lot of things up and a lot of things were running at the same time that weren't seen to anybody else. And as a result, my computer was slowing down dramatically. Like it was having a hard time. This is a brand new computer. And I was just pushing it. But because I had all these things in the background working all the time, it actually slowed the performance of the computer down. The computer wasn't meant to do what it was supposed to do. And I was thinking about this in the context of our dental practices. And I was thinking about what are the things that we have in our practices that actually slow down practice growth, but you can't see because they're kind of hidden. And we focus so much, and the emphasis on dentistry so much right now is on growth and expansion and multiple offices and new patients and all this stuff. But when I looked at my own practice, and a lot of the stuff is I was growing and doing a lot more comprehensive work and working on communication skills with my patients and working on communication skills with my team and all of these fancy things, right? Like quote unquote, helping grow and sale. On the back end, stuff still wasn't quite right? And so the last probably 6 months or so, I've started to take a step back. And as I'm not in my practice as much, it actually becomes even more important for me to look at the underlying structures that's determining our results and start to focus on some of that back end stuff that we typically throw under the rug and don't want to pay attention to it. And all of that stuff is like the background noise in your computer that's constantly running. And if it's not running efficiently, the delivery and performance of the computer will slow down, but you might not know why because it's hidden from view. So I would highly encourage you as you start to look at your practice, and we all focus on new patients, and we focus on marketing, and we focus on all these quote unquote sexy things to grow our practice. Those are absolutely fundamental for growth. But there's all this back-end stuff, the hidden, software running, if you will, with our practice that we need to make sure is in line or we're going to be running up against the wall. And the sad part is what I've actually seen is if you neglect that stuff long enough and you don't pay attention to it, eventually your computer does what? It actually just completely freezes and shuts down. And when does it freeze and shut down? It freezes and shuts down when you run it so hard and you got so many things going on that the stuff that you're trying to grow, which was the performance, has now completely been shattered by all the stuff that's underneath that can't support the new performance anymore. And so all of a sudden you'll see this huge, just complete shutdown. And so if you think about your practice, I can guarantee you're headed that way if you continue to focus on growth, but not making sure that the underlying foundation is in place and everything's running properly. And I unfortunately see that way too often, that these practices, I just laugh. I laugh when, a single practice that isn't a brand new practice, but it's a mature practice, and they say, well, we see 300 new patients a month. And I've heard that. How is it even possible? Right? Because if you do the math, like if I have new patients, I want to retain 95% of my new patients. I don't want them going to another practice once they come to mine, right? I want to keep them once I have them. So I was doing the math. I'm like, okay, so if 300 new patients, that's 95 out of every 100. So 95 times 3 is what? You're losing 15. So 285 new patients, if you use my metrics, would be retained. That means in a year, you'd basically turn over your entire practice, because you can only support about 2,000 patients with one doctor. So I guess if you had 4 or 5 associates and 15 staff members, you'd be able to do that. But even then, you would run into a problem, which is like you have way too many new patients to support. So there's got to be something on the back end that they're not telling you, like you're losing all of them. So how would you know that unless you actually got into the fundamentals in the back end of the office and see, where are we losing patients? How can we increase our systems and our policies? How can we increase our efficiency with our patients so that we can keep more new patients in-house? And all of that stuff is the background noise. So when you look at your practice, you might see that blank desktop. And so you're only focused on, certain things. But underneath that computer is being run by a lot of different things that you can't see with your naked eye, but it's absolutely important for your computer to have those things running efficiently so that the performance of the computer is there. So hopefully you can follow that analogy along enough to see that your computer is your practice. And what are the things that are driving your practice growth that you can't see, that aren't on the desktop, that are absolutely important? And how can you begin to go into those areas and look at how you can improve them further? There is some serious revenue loss in your practice because of your inability to see those things and measure them and improve upon them. And so we all want to fall in love with the idea of new patients. We all want to fall in love with the idea of case acceptance. And these things are absolutely critical. It's what I talk about all the time. But unless you have a solid foundation, unless your computer is running smoothly, it doesn't matter how much you work on that stuff. It won't be nearly as effective as if you have a foundational aspect to your practice that's running properly. So hopefully you get some value out of this. As always, go to dentalpracticefreedomradio.com for your free 5 videos on the Case Acceptance Master Pack. And also check out dentalsalessecrets.com, where you can get a webinar through me where we talk more about the case acceptance process and how I've utilized my knowledge to basically become an authority in my dental space, in my market, in the TMJ world, and how you can do that in your own practice, regardless of whether or not you use TMJ to differentiate yourself or sleep apnea or whatever the case may be. It's a very universal process. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on Dental Practice Freedom Radio with Dr. Steve Schlitz. We'll see you on the next episode.